Hey everybody, how's it going? We are back in the saw shop. Took a couple of extra days last week and over the weekend. Getting yard work done. Sometimes a fella has to stop playing and do some work, and that's where I was at over the weekend. We set up a pool last week, friends, so I was hauling water and filling it, and that pool actually had a leak. It was defective, so we tore that one down and bought another pool and set that one up. Things you do for your children, right, friends? And little Charlie loves to swim. So that's what we were doing on the weekend. Trim the hedges, just doing yard work around here. And, making it look nice. My yard gets in various states of disrepair, and then I clean it up nice. And this year's been a battle, friends, with the amount of rain we have. This is farmland, and anything that grows here grows mean. And I've been cutting the grass twice a week all summer, which that's about 8 hours a week of just grass cutting. So not complaining. This is the life I choose, but sometimes that means the saw work has to be put aside. Anyhow, now that I'm back, let's continue on in our ultimate firewood saw, ultimate old man saw, I'm calling it. Because let's face it, as you get older, you want less weight, and you can still make a 50cc saw a good cutter. Now again, friends, when we're done this saw and I run it and it's good and I'm happy with it, I'm going to send this off to one of you guys that hangs out here, and we'll do another one and another one. We'll just keep going through our auction saws that we bought. This saw here, I'm going to do this saw exactly in a way that you guys can recreate at home. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. Nothing but a straight shaft tool. Nothing exotic in this build. I want you guys out there to be able to recreate this because you guys have emailed and commented and gotten a hold of me and said, hey, I have one of those saws. I'd really like to do a build on it. So we're going to do that today. One thing we got to do today, friends, before we pull this piston back out and the cylinder off, we got to check the squish on this saw. Your squish sets up everything, because remember, if my squish is too tight, I'm going to have to get a thicker gasket and raise the cylinder. If I raise the cylinder, well, guess what? That's going to change my timing numbers. Remember in the last video, I had to use a base gasket, and I want to confirm now with a base gasket, and it should be okay, but I'm going to go through the motions so that you guys, there's no gray areas on this build. So first off, let's set up and let's check the squish on this, and that's the clearance between the top of the piston and the top of the cylinder head. You want to make sure they're not too tight for two reasons. Everything stretches when it gets hot. Your squish will decrease as everything, gets warm, and as carbon builds up on your piston, you can tap your piston. Good place to be, 20, 25 thousandths, 20 to 30 is more than safe. A smaller saw, you can run tighter squish, but I'd like this one to be anywhere from, 18, 20, 22, somewhere in there, and that'll make me happy. So first off, let's check the squish. Then in this video, let's go over what we can do to this saw simply, effectively, and easily, and how you can build a good running saw without crazy tools and doing all kinds of crazy work. I'll look in the cylinder and I'll show you guys where to not touch if you're just beginning grinding. So without further ado, let's get back to working on this. Let's check the squish. Okay, you guys know the deal. And if you don't, welcome. If you're new here, welcome. Please post a comment, introduce yourself. We putter with stuff here, and this is just a place where we have fun with chainsaws. Okay, first things first, take your solder, go through the spark plug hole, turn your cylinder around. Okay, I'm going to put a ratchet on here. Okay, there we go. Check it in all four corners, front, back, side, side. I often get razzled and dazzled by people, and you guys know me. I don't get involved in that stuff because we all do things differently. And if you build a good saw and you do things different than me, that makes me learn and it makes me interested. But I check front and back, friends. Front and back, yeah, your piston might move in there. There's a thou or two of play, right? Your piston isn't exactly the same size as the bore, but that thou or two on the top is not going to make a difference. So if you measured front and back, you're fine, or side to side, whatever you want to do. Okay. So, okay, 17 and a half thou, 17 and a half, 18 and a half. Okay, so that's about as tight as I would run this. Now, a little trick for you guys, as you guys know, I like to hand out tricks because, well, somebody taught me or I taught myself, and if I can pass it on to you guys, I will. If you put this on your gasket, okay, if you do this on one side of the gasket to the cylinder, you'll get about 2 thousandths, maybe 3 when you bolt it all down, okay? If you do it on both sides of the gasket and your case and your cylinder, you get about 4 to 6 thousandths, okay? So you can increase your squish just with MotoSeal. Try it out. It works, okay? So that's another way. Now, if you don't, if you're trying to decrease it, well, buy thinner gasket material. It's available at auto parts stores. You can buy thinner or thicker material. You can make gaskets out of, pop cans, whatever you got. So don't be afraid to try stuff. Well, the worst comes to worst, you blow the base gasket out and you take the cylinder off and you do it again. Not a big deal. And that's how you learn. Anyhow, so our squish is like 17 and a half thou, 18 thou. I'm good with that. That's bang on where I want it. And that doesn't scare me at all. That's as tight as I'd go on a bigger saw. Any tighter than that, and you run the risk of tapping things. Now, if you're building just a play saw and you don't care, go give her. Decrease your squish until it taps, and then you know the limits for that saw and that combo. But here's how I look at this, friends. Now, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life because I really like playing with saws. But I only have so much time. My life is a very busy life. I'm sure a lot of you guys have the same thing with work and my kid, YouTube, other various hobbies, which I'm going to talk about another hobby that I do that I just got back into this weekend in an upcoming video. I'm going to add that to the channel because it's something that I've always loved and I've had to stop doing for many years. But anyways, we'll get to that in another video. Okay, so take your cylinder off. And this base gasket actually stuck down, so we'll have to replace it. Interesting. It adhered on its own. Oh well. You know what that is, friends? It has been so humid out, I think this gasket swelled a little bit. So I'll probably have to make one out of gasket maker. So I don't think I have an, oh, I might have another one. We'll see. I'm sure if I look hard enough, friends, I have one. But it is what it is. We can make one. Okay. Push our wrist pin out. Now, right now, first thing I want you guys to do. So you just started porting and you're like, what do I do, Tin Man? I'm not sure. Look at your case. Does your case have a lot of room? Is it tight? How much room is there around the crankshaft? Well, this one's very tight, okay? If you really want to go down the rabbit hole, CC it. And by CCing it, fill it full of fluid and measure how many cc's it holds. Mark it down. And remember, anything below the piston, and that includes the lower transfers, anything below the piston is considered case capacity. So if you're going to CC that, you'd also have to CC your transfers, okay? You can go as far down the rabbit hole or as, shallow down the rabbit hole as you want. When I was younger and had more free time, before I had a kid and, stuff like that, I did a lot of this stuff. But I like you guys to do things for yourself. Anyhow, okay, so This one's fairly tight. Now, what you'll usually notice in a saw with tight case capacity is shallow or less intake timing. Well, we measured this saw. This saw has 134 degrees of intake timing. Okay, so right there, that kind of lines up. So you may not want to, yeah, it's been so humid out, 80, 90%, that this gasket swelled. Even though I had 2 bolts in here, it appears that this gasket swelled. So, kind of interesting. No fault of the gasket. It's just the conditions. Okay. So if you have a tighter case capacity, generally you're going to have less intake timing, which this saw has. Now, okay. So our squish is good. We got lower case capacity. So right there, we're probably not going to jack up the intake timing on this saw a ton because, well, we know if we... Sorry, friends, I'm just moving the light here. I got lights hanging all over the place, up and over. And you want to film YouTube? Lots of lights. More lights. So many lights, it's like glowing. That's the way to do it. Anyways, maybe I'll do a video one day on the equipment I use to film YouTube. You guys would probably be shocked at how simple my setup is and how I don't need fancy anything and I never have to run this channel. But there's another video that needs to be made. Okay. So friends, again, if you have low intake timing, 134, don't say, well, most of the saws I run have 148 stock, and I run them at 155, so I'm just going to put this at 155. Think about it. If you put this at 155 and it's at 134, that's 21 degrees of total opening. That's a lot. You got to stop right there and think, is this saw going to handle it? What are the drawbacks of over-intaking a saw? On the light end, it'll be hard to start. It'll be hard to tune. It'll be hard to idle. It'll also be lazy. It won't rev up quickly. Okay. So think about all these things as you're porting. Okay. This one, 134, I might go, I'll probably give it 5 degrees, which will be 10 degrees total timing. 144 would probably be as far as I'm going to go on this one. A lot of people have said you need a bigger carb if you port these. Yeah, maybe. Some saws I build need a bigger carb, but I find most of them, they're good with a stock size carb, especially for a work saw. When you start going a bigger carb, yeah, you can... Don't get me wrong, friends. A saw that needs a bigger carb, you'll feel it instantly. But a saw that doesn't need a bigger carb, it'll be zippier, more alive when you touch the trigger, if that makes sense. Which is what you want in a firewood saw. Okay. I'm not going to flap on for too long. The cylinder. Let's grab my fancy marker, wherever I put it. Okay. If you're just starting porting, and this is what I'm going to do to this saw. Remember, your windows, see if you guys can see in there. Your windows and a lot of your stills are wider than your transfers, okay? Substantially wider. And I mean, look, here. The cutouts for the skirt are almost in line with your windows, okay? Your windows are about half blocked by the transfers. Now, some people, a lot of people, say there's no need to widen a transfer. And sometimes you are correct. But, honestly, friends... Well, you saw the 46 I just built for Caleb. He's been running that. They had a major hurricane down there. Perfect time to try out your new Tin Man ported saw 5-6 days a week. He's been running that thing, friends, like 12 hours a day for the last, how long's it been? Month and a half. And he absolutely loves it. So it goes to show you, you can widen transfers and still build a legit work saw. Anyways, friends. Okay, you're starting porting. Here's your lower transfers. It's easy to know how wide you can go. See this part right here? Okay. This part right here is a different color, and that's because the piston never touches there. That's how wide I could go. But here's the thing, friends. I'm going to do this one as simple as I can. When you're starting out porting, guess what? If you do the sides of the transfers, that's probably where you're going to chip or go across the plating. If your tool's turning this way, it's going to pull you in, right? It's going to pull you into the transfer. But now, if it's turning that way, it's going to pull you out of the transfer on this side. And it's also, if you don't have super sharp tooling, I can't stress that enough, it will get underneath this plating and it will chip it, okay? And you'll be chasing chips all day. Doesn't matter if it's aftermarket, OEM, it happens. Often it's poor technique, wrong speed, or really hard plating, okay? So on this one, what we're going to do is we're going to lower these, and I'm going to take my marker here. We're going to lower these pretty much to the bottom, okay? Like that. Okay, the nice thing about that is you take your tool, dig it in, and go across and across. Basically, all I'm going to do is, when the air is coming out of the bottom end, it's going to have more of a smooth transition, okay? Next thing you can do with your straight shaft is go in here and thin the bridging. See where I marked there? Thin that. Go inside. Get rid of that. Okay? Really taper it this way. Okay? To create velocity at the upper transfers. Okay? Notice lower transfers start off wide and they get narrower. That's to create pressure. Okay? That's how air works. When you take big air and put it in a small place, you create pressure. Okay? So I want you to look at that. Just go on the bottom and cut it. We're going to do this on film. Intake. Friends, if you're not comfy grinding your intake, okay, here's the intake side, and you always know because the pins are here. Take your grinder. Figure out how many degrees you want. Cut that out. Okay, we call that quick timing. Donnie Walker told me his dad always called that quick timing. You can, it's quick and easy. Okay, leave both sides though, okay? If you just cut it straight across, you could do that. You're shortening your piston skirt and you're creating a situation where that piston can now rock a little bit more or it will wear faster. So if you're going to do your quick timing, go in here, cut a little notch in there, okay? Now it's probably way too big, but you guys get the idea. You'll get a really snappy saw, and if you make a mistake, guess what? Just buy another piston. Notice this piston has a nice dome on it. That's nice. Still built some good stuff back in the day. I really like the steels from this generation. I think they did a good job. Or go in. Now, I may widen this some. Okay. We can even do the little ears on it. We're going to widen this some. Okay. See that? We'll go in the corner with our tooling straight through. Okay. Straight in. And then you take it and you go down, down, down until you grind the little grooves into there. And then take this. Same thing. You're looking through into the cylinder and you're going zing, zing, zing. Make yourself a mark so that you know how far to go. Okay? Now, the exhaust port, I happen to think the exhaust port is plenty big on a lot of saws. But again, you can go in there. You can go in there into the corners. Okay? Pretend this is your tool and go zing, 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 zing. Now, if your tool's spinning this way, the hard side to grind is going to be this side. So if your tool's spinning funny on one side, maybe, or if it's spinning up on this side, it's going to grind nicer on one side than the other. I always do the harder side to grind first so that it's way easier to match the hard side than it is to do the easy side first. You guys picking up what I'm throwing down? Now, what are we going to do the upper transfers? Nothing. I will leave them bone stock on this build and see what kind of power we can make. I betcha it's not going to matter. Now, if you do want to grind, I put a ball on the end and I will go straight in and shape the tips and sweep them up a little bit and change the exit angle. Now, you got to have a really sturdy hand for that and a good eye, but you can do it. I've done it lots before I had a right angle tool. And in fact, friends, I still don't use my right angle that often. Okay? And then on this side, I will go in and texture. I want this rough, really rough. Okay, all the way in. I won't open this at all. I don't want it any bigger. Okay. I don't want things bigger. I want things to flow better. When you first start porting, a lot of guys, they go in and they just hog everything out. Air likes to go from small to bigger and in, right? Like this. If it's supposed to be like this and you make it just straight in, it might not work as well. You might have a saw that's not going to pull as hard. Shapes are more important than timing numbers. I really believe that. So that's what we're going to do. I hope this helped you guys. I'm trying to take this one slower than normal, just to show you guys what can be done with simple tooling. Seriously, friends, I'm going to do as little work to this saw as possible, slap it together, and see what we get. I used to port these years ago without a wheel, and I never touched the exhaust port. I would just widen it. I would go in and do that to the lower transfers. And the intake, I would take a few swipes off the bottom and clean it up, and they ran really well. So we're going to try that. Okay, everyone, I hope you're picking up what I'm putting down. We're going to try and keep this simple. You guys said you want 2 rings, so we'll run 2 rings in this one. I was going to go single ring. Some of you didn't like that because the bottom ring is exposed. At bottom dead center, the bottom ring is sticking into the intake. That honestly does not bother me at all. Not even slightly, friends, because if still did it factory, it's going to work. Now, if I take the bottom ring out, technically at bottom dead center, there is the ring open, but that doesn't line up with anything. So that would just carry more oil and keep the piston cooler is my thinking. But like I said, I'm going to port this to your guys' specs, and you guys said, please put 2 rings in it. Piston work was unanimous. You guys like to see piston work done. And again, we know these pistons are blocked, or these windows are blocked by the transfers, but we can go in and shape them in a way that they feed in, not straight, but in and back into the transfers. I'll show you guys how to do that. And we'll clean this up, shed some weight off of it, and we'll throw it in. So anyhow, friends, I hope some of you are going to build the saw along with this step by step. And when we're done, if you do that, send me a video of your saw running. Do our saws run the same? Do they run different? That'd be kind of fun. Anyhow, friends, I'm back. Thanks for coming back again and again. Life's been busy this summer. As you guys know, having a toddler, it's a mile a minute. You never know what's going to happen. But I've found a balance between work, life, being a father, and YouTube. And sometimes it's more like this than like that. And I wouldn't have it any other way. It's an awesome thing being a parent. And I love every second of it. Anyhow, friends, thanks for watching. Take her easy. Next time you see this, we'll probably get going on the piston. I should be able to port this whole thing in an hour. Like literally there's an hour's worth of porting to do in here. I'm not going to do much. Little bit of piston work, a little bit of transfer work, widen a few things, drop a few things, slap her back together, and then we can go through it and replace anything we don't like in the saw. Fuel line, impulse, intake. I'll show you guys how to put crank seals in, and then we can throw the saw back together. And in fact, I'm going to do my old school pre-Tin Man Saws era muffler mod to this saw and see how it runs. I used to do them the same way every time, and I always had good results. So I'll show you guys how I used to do these. It was quick and easy and no welding involved. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Take her easy. I'll see you guys in a couple days. Later.